London, Sarah Everard was walking home after visiting a friend in her South London neighbourhood when a police officer stopped her. He waved her toward his car, pulled out his police identification card and swiftly handcuffed her. It was the middle of a national coronavirus lockdown in March, and the police were charged with enforcing restrictions on movement. The young woman, according to a video of the encounter, did not argue. She got in the car and the officer drove off. 7 days later, her charred remains were found stuffed in green trash bags in the woods some 60 miles away. The crime horrified Britain. For any woman who has looked over her shoulder walking home alone, it struck a raw nerve. And even before it was revealed that the killer was a police officer, it raised profound questions about how the authorities handle incidents of violence against women and galvanized a national movement demanding better protections. But the harrowing details of the abduction, rape and murder of Ms. Everard, 33, were only laid out publicly for the first time on Wednesday during the sentencing hearing for the officer, Wayne Couzens. Mr. Couzens, who worked for the Metropolitan Police, pleaded guilty to her killing earlier this year. The prosecution on Wednesday called Mr. Couzens' actions an attack of deception, kidnap, rape, strangulation, fire. Tom Little, a prosecutor, told London Central Criminal Court that Mr. Couzens had gone hunting for a lone young woman and had used his official police credentials, equipment and training to carry out the crime. Entrusted with protecting the public, Mr. Couzens instead used his position of authority to lure Ms. Everard to her death, Mr. Little said. The prosecutor said Mr. Couzens confronted Ms. Everard on March 3 in South London as she walked home from a friend's house, and conducted a false arrest for breaching lockdown guidelines, to get Ms. Everard into his car. He then raped and strangled her, before setting her body alight, Mr. Little said. Ms. Everard's remains were found near Ashford in Kent. Only days after the discovery, Mr. Couzens took his family on an outing to the same Kent woods, allowing his children to play in relative proximity to where Sarah Everard's body had been dumped, Mr. Little said. Mr. Couzens had worked on COVID patrols a few months earlier, the prosecutor told the court, giving him an understanding of the protocols regarding potential lockdown breaches. A witness in a passing vehicle saw what was happening and noted that it looked abnormal, but thought it was just a police officer detaining a woman who had done something wrong, the prosecutor told the court.